Welcome back. Welcome in. It's Country Roads Confidential at earsports.com. It's a Paramount podcast. I am Mike Casazza. That is Chris Anderson. Chris, we are a day late, but nevertheless, I would say on time because, um, man, we've been waiting for stuff to happen for a while and it just doesn't happen. So who cares if we say we're going to do a Q&A podcast on Monday and we do it on Tuesday? A lot of questions just not answered yet. Have tried, gotten some answers, but that's just our profession, right? There are other people who have a real interest in what's going on, and far be it from you and me to ignore their curiosity. So that's why we're here. Long off season comes to an end, long regular season begins. People want to know about these Mountaineers, you and me included too, but we'll take a back seat to the mailbag today, huh?
That's right. I mean, hey, if Rich Rodriguez can push all of the football stuff from Monday to Tuesday, we can do the same for the mailbag, right?
Feels safe to
Um,
me.
we got a ton of questions in here. Some of it we kind of touched on. The questions went up before we did our Monday pod, so there might be a little bit of repeating here. We might shorten some of the answers, and some of this stuff we'll be answering later. We got a couple of these questions that we pulled for 3-minute videos. Some of it I'll be answering on the mailbag, which, given the fact this podcast is going up Tuesday morning, you may see this written mailbag within a couple hours of this podcast going up. So you will get your answers, or most of you, today. Um, let's start with plus 26, Mike. 26 upvotes for this first question. Would you like to take a guess on what or whom it has to deal with?
It was like the first question too, wasn't it? One of the first questions.
Uh, odds or percentage that Jamori plays this year? Closer to 80 or closer to 20% for Marduk?
All right, so let's put this here right now. We're recording this on Monday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm leaving to go have an interview with the president and the athletic director.
Woo, look at you, Mr. Fancy.
I'm not doing a lock-in, but I'm really trying to get answers to this for a couple of days now. And like, if I can't get it from them, wow, right? So I'm going to try. We might have an answer to this question by the time that people hear this, just because of where I was on Monday afternoon. So maybe I get the answers and maybe I don't, but ideally I do. But if I have the answers by the time that you hear this, my apologies, but that's the way this time works. I think he plays. I don't have a percentage. It's black and white. It's a binary to me, yes or no. I think he plays. I don't feel strongly about it. I disagree with what a lot of people who insist that the judge gave him clearance to play. I don't see that, but I'm also not certain what the academic situation is, and just feel like there's some resolution or some settlement. We mentioned on Monday's podcast, maybe there's a couple of games he has to sit out that's corresponding a number of hours that he needs, whatever. I just believe he plays this season.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't feel great about it. I actually don't. I mean, there's been some pushback on it about the impact of this, of where, because it's two separate issues, and I think people continue to combine them into one, and it's two different reasons that Robinson might not be eligible. The first, which the judge definitively ruled on, clear. Second one, not so much. Um, we'll see. I'm with you. Like, this is either a yes or no question. I don't know about that. I know we've seen it before with the, hey, maybe he misses a couple games as punishment for whatever he had to make up. But I just don't think there's any going back from saying yes or no one way or the other. I think it's going to be definitively one way or the other. I think there's a 0% chance he plays against Robert Morris. I think we talked about that on Monday just because of being up in the air about him practicing and needing the 5 days to get all the way ready, all that stuff. So I think you will not see him Saturday against Robert Morris. I don't think. It, was that not? I don't know.
I don't, there's not, I mean, technically, I mean, they practice on Sunday, so they have to have an off day, which I believe is Monday.
Yeah,
That means Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I mean, you can't practice and then play on Sunday, Saturday. So like, I just think that the 5 day acclimatization rule doesn't work for him.
yeah.
So I would be with you. I'd be more toward 0% than 100% that he plays on Saturday if he's even clear.
Um, next questions here. This one's from Wicked Jester. Game by game prediction time. That's Thursday. But sorry, it's one of the more upvoted ones, but that's coming in Thursday's pod. We are going a 3 pod, 4 pod week, I guess, if you count Saturday's rapid reactions, but that will be coming later. That will also include the question from Mahoney, WVU plus or minus 5.5 wins. I believe that's what Vegas has set the line at. Mike and I will both make picks on that. And I think part of that pod will also cover WV Blessed question because we do this typically when we talk about the season. He asked us to rank WV's toughest games in order 1 through 12. We'll do something very, very similar to that. Just a sneak peek, Mike. What's your toughest game? I know we've done this before. I think we did it for a 3 minute video last year. What's the toughest game on West Virginia's schedule?
I mean, I have a couple that are candidates. I really think that the at Arizona State game is going to be tough just because of the distance and the time of the year. I really think that the Pitt game, just because of all the emotion that's going to be involved there, is difficult. But boy, I would not sleep on that Kansas game. I just think that's going to be a hard game because of what's before it and how much that game is going to mean.
Yeah, I think that's just one of those teams. We saw Kansas. I wrote it. I just wrote it like 4 times in the past week. They beat 3 straight top 20 teams, and like their only loss in like the second half of the year was by 2 points to another top 20 team. So that team is a lot better than they were in the first half of last year. And yeah, obviously it's a new year, new team, but I think some of that's going to carry over, especially with the quarterback coming back too. So, Cole City Ear, this was the next highest upvoted question. What are your expectations for the first iteration of Zach Alley's WV defense? If I set the over under for total defensive ranking at 43.5, what are you betting? 43.5, Mike, total defense.
So that's what yards per game.
Yeah, that's how I'm taking it. Total defense, yeah.
I would go under. I think they
So
could. I think they could be a
worth.
top. I think they could be a top 40 defense.
Oh, you think they can be a top? Okay, so not under 43. Yes,
Yeah.
lower than 43, which means better than 43.
Yeah, like don't forget this. Like everybody's talking about how the Big 12 has great quarterback play. That's true. West Virginia doesn't play most of those teams. That'll help.
I'm going back through. Would you like to take a guess at the best West Virginia's been in total defense, a ranking in recent years? Let's say I'm
Was it
going back.
19? No, 2020 had the good one, right?
Yeah, 2021 wasn't bad either, apparently. 2020 was fourth, by the way. It's crazy. Uh,
Yeah,
Total
look at that.
defense per game. But the 2021 defense, which again, I don't remember being that stellar, 37th in total team defense. So, and that was 350 yards per game. Like,
Yeah, I just don't like that stat. Yards are
yeah,
really. I'd much rather gauge you on points per game, but yards per game. I mean, you could allow 10 points to give up 350 yards.
yeah. I mean, in the 2020 and 2021 years, West Virginia's offense was really slowing it down, eating things up. I think that was one of those years, might have been the one where they took like a 2 touchdown lead over TCU at home. And then the second half was maybe the most boring half of football I've ever seen in my entire life. And just like, there's no way we're going to lose. So just slowly eat away at the clock. But, um, Crawdaddy 26554. How many quarterbacks do we see in game one?
Three.
That is the correct answer. I don't think there's another answer because the only way it's not three is if it's a tight game. And if it's a tight game, you still might see three because quarterback play must not be doing very well.
There's the need there.
Yeah. So I do believe the correct answer is three. Even in like a 40, 50 point blowout, we've seen it in past years, coaches tend not to go to quarterback four. They just let quarterback three kind of finish things out.
Mhm.
Mr. Maris says, are you at all concerned that Nice Feet is making an appearance at the Country Roads Confidential Tailgate? Um, First off, it's like 8 straight podcasts, Q&As with Nice Feet making an appearance. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful, not fearful, hopeful that Nice Feet and all of you that are listening make an appearance. If you are not familiar, go check out the VIP board. We're setting up a tailgate to thank all of you guys for being VIP members. Come check it out. Have some wings, have some meatball sliders, have some refreshments. Not Mike and I. We're going to be working, but sorry, are you working Saturday? No,
Yeah, so you're actually going to be there for this, huh? Where are we going to do the post game podcast?
I don't know. I was going to crash at your house. I meant to talk to you about that before the
No, we're
pod.
packed. Sorry, we're booked. Sorry. Got to get in early at my house.
Uh-huh. Phil 00111. Philo 0111. Should WVU fans hope the Alabama series gets canceled, or should fans hope that we play the series? Does playing in the series have any implications for WVU's position in conference realignment?
No, I don't think so. Uh, Interesting point. I guess like, all right, so if they beat Alabama, they get some footing as like a pretty good program that's worthy of, as we say, like getting on the ark, getting on the boat when it leaves the port. Maybe. I think that you would also argue that if they just beat Georgia Southern in a home and home, or if they beat, or they plug in Georgia Southern in one and Marshall in the other, something like that, whatever they're going to do. But if they schedule themselves 2 wins or a lesser home and home against a Power Four, whatever happens in those games, but if they make the playoff once, if they get into the conference championship game once, something like that in these next couple of years, I realize that's a pretty bold ask in year 1 and 2 for Rodriguez. That's a better catalyst to getting a spot on the arc. Like if the ultimately what you do in that first Saturday in September, it doesn't really matter if you're going to have 12, 14, 24, 28 playoff teams before too long. I would just focus on being really good in conference play, which might mean being healthy, which might mean having a lot of momentum, being 3-0, and then having really good home crowds in October and on. I'm not optimistic that they do a really bold scheduling thing here, unless they're just trying to press the easy button and, as we example, slide in like a Louisville. That just they're both looking for something. Let's get this done really fast, which isn't a bad idea either. Don't get me wrong.
Um, NC Wayward Ear. There's been a lot reported on the football team, but what is one area that may have not gotten enough attention or is being slightly overlooked or underestimated?
Well, I mean, I think we covered everything, right? So I can't answer this question because that means I dropped the ball somewhere. Um, I have I think their depth that is productive, reliable. I don't think it's where they want it to be. That's a negative. Like I think their top line, they're 11 on offense and defense, they're 15 on offense and defense. That could be sufficient to get them through some early games and win some games. But once the season starts to take effect and guys get injured or they're just not good enough and it's being exposed in the field, if they don't have the gas and tank, whatever reason that just naturally the college football attrition comes in, it could be the opponents, could be the schedule, whatever. I wonder where they are from like 16 to 22, 18 to 22 on their depth chart. And I haven't heard a lot of that. Certainly haven't seen a lot of that. And if you're wondering about so many depth chart positions at this point, are you going to say that they're all good? They're all two quality starters? Or do you have some backups who are going to start and some backups who maybe are more inclined to be special teams players who are backups? That's my unspoken, but also, as I said, like uninformed, unobserved aspect of things right now.
A question for you related to that. And you, have we talked enough or written enough or argued enough about who the quarterback's going to be? Because I feel, again, like, I don't know if it's just because Rich Rodriguez made it very clearly from day one that he was never going to tell anybody or give any hint of anything until like afterwards that people are like, all right, well, we'll just move on to the other positions. I mean, I'm saying this knowing that I could very easily just write the story. I could very easily just ask the questions as well. But I'm just like, now that he has asked that question, I'm like, man, we haven't. I mean, even some of the podcasts we've done, you and I've done, we're like, well, quarterbacks over here. That's definitely a topic, but we know it's a topic, so we don't need to discuss it right now. Have we not discussed it enough? Is that something that's underestimated, under talked about?
Yeah, relative to the position and how much it means, especially for this coach, never mind for college football. No, we haven't talked about it enough. Without putting eyes on it very often, like twice, we were probably deprived of a third chance because of social media posts. I'm not even sure that would have colored in many blanks. They only let you see what they want you to see that, and I'm not sure you're going to get a lot of that. Wow, he does a tighter spiral than Jalen Henderson. He'll be the starter. I can't get to there. Um, Not a lot of whispers coming out. There's a great differentiation there. I think that most people would put Nico Marchio in the driver's seat. Would you be surprised if Jalen Henderson started? I think mildly just because of the like I said, the natural assumption of people, but probably not because he's a better player or a better prospect or better potential for the offense. I don't think that should be a great surprise. We haven't because we haven't talked about it enough or covered enough for one or maybe two reasons. One, just lack of observation and facts about this, and I don't really want people writing the story for me because they say this, which makes it boring which is kind of sad because the quarterback is a big thing. Maybe we should have devoted more time to it, but yeah, we just didn't have enough to tell you this guy had a better practice. This guy has better chemistry with the receivers. This guy gets it out faster. This guy can run more plays. And I just couldn't tell you who that is. And like anytime you ask a question about it, it gets rained on. Everything's even. Competition is going to go on. I kind of think we'll see both quarterbacks probably early on Saturday, just because they, even if one's the starter and it's pretty clear, they're going to make sure that person keeps the job and is pressed. I think so. You're right. It's a good point. It's kind of sad, but that's also not entirely our fault.
You want to speak about things intelligently. Sure. Okay. Responsible journalism. Thanks,
I
Mike.
barely
Appreciate that.
barely pulled it off when I have all the facts too. So if I'm winging it, a little harder.
Cobb 0012. Who are your preseason defensive player of the year and offensive player of the year?
My number one pick on our draft was Fred Perry,
Mm-hmm.
and like I just think that that's the defensive ace. That's the guy who's going to make a lot of things happen. His stats have been very good. I'm not sure that there's a guy who's going to run him off the field, who's ready to go and make the plays that he has. And if they want to keep that guy in that position on the field at all times, I think it's him. That'd be my pick there. Only because number zero, we really don't know, so we can't do that. Offense is just tricky for me. If you in your non-quarterback edition, you might say Jaheim White. I would have a hard time going beyond that. There's no Zach Frazier on the offensive line, who's kind of like the Zag pick, but just makes a lot of sense. And I couldn't even pick a quarterback, Chris, because the conversation we just had. Ideally, your quarterback is your best offensive player, maybe the best player in your team. If that's not true, you either have a great cast around him, which we just don't know about, and you'd have a hard time arguing that point, or you have a great defense, which we just don't know, and you'd have a hard time arguing that point. So, and that makes you suspicious about the team's overall fate. But offensively, it's a harder pick for me. It might be like someone who's just really good at what he does in a role, an offensive lineman, a tight end, like a Grayson Barnes has a good blocking performance and catches 6 touchdown passes this year. He might be your MVP, even though your quarterback running back has a good year. But you'd probably bet the field and the quarterback, and your smartest bet would be Jaheim White.
I agree with all that stuff there. Throw in Michael Coates or Coates at cornerback. Just think if you can really truly find the guy, if he is a guy that can live up to, well, like let's say, expectations, live up to his PFF grades, all that stuff, like you just shut down half the field and you have brought something to a secondary that West Virginia has not seen in several years. I mean, they've seen guys like Beanie Bishop, for instance, like a couple years ago. I think I was writing about that with turnover luck, where it's just, holy cow, it's so bad. And then all of a sudden, this one year, they created turnovers, they defended passes, and it was almost exclusively Beanie Bishop. Could Coates be that guy? And maybe he becomes the MVP. Maybe. Um, Another question from Philo. This is a four-parter. Yeah, four-parter. Four grades you got to give here, Mike. We are grading Rich Rod's staff based on the following areas during the offseason. A to F, renewing fan excitement.
I don't think that moves the needle. I mean, Allie would be a big one because again, you pulled Oklahoma's defensive coordinator where he's working with his mentor. It's a guy that Rich had worked with before, so there's a lot to that. I think that means a lot. I would challenge anybody else to name the other 27 offensive coaches on or defensive coaches on this team and why they're different than like replacement level right now. And then as the season goes along, they're going to be either like artificially credited or blamed for a lot of the successes or failures. That's just the way coaching goes. But I'm not like I think again I've talked about this before. I think Michael Nicewander is probably going to be like a plus recruiter and good at his position. I don't know that a lot of people are buying season tickets or clearing their schedules on Saturday because he's on the staff. I just don't think that's it. And then sure, I think there's a celebration for having Pat White and Noel Devine in the staff too. What we just talked about the quarterbacks, right? It's kind of hard to see that there's like this slam dunk obvious thing. It's nice to have them back, but I'm not sure that that's really spiking it. It could be a great staff, but I'm not sure that it spikes the preseason excitement right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that the Zach Alley thing was big because I think it not so. I mean, yes, it partly, possibly, probably because of his name and what he's capable of doing, but just the fact that you could say that West Virginia could say, "Hey, we got into a bidding war with Zach with Oklahoma and beat Oklahoma for a coach."
Mhm.
I think that means something. But I'm with you. is that going to, renew fan excitement? And then to your point about all the other position coaches, and not to take away things from guys, but there's so many guys on staff that, like say you had a pie, like, some people talk about like a blame pie, who to blame for all this stuff. But even if you get, it's a credit pie too. Like if the team is good and you are dishing out credit, you are now divvying that pie up between 42 different coaches or whatever it is. It's like, who's getting the credit where? And I think some fans are going to have a hard time figuring out who gets it and who deserves it. And so, yeah, I think it's tough to say how much, like just the hiring of that, it's going to renew fan excitement. Um, Drawing national attention, ADF.
I mean, you're probably looking like again a steady C here. Allie's again. I've heard a lot of people say he's one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. I listen. I can't get there. He's 31 years old and he's worked at Jacksonville State and Louisiana Monroe before Oklahoma, where it took off. But he was there 1 year. And what was the yeah but about him when they hired him? Yeah, but he didn't call plays. So I just and again I haven't seen that as like this thing about oh my gosh they fixed things because they haven't played the game yet. If they had carried on with last year's staff and they had replaced Jeff Kuntz who replaced Jordan Leslie with Zach Alley, you'd be like, all right, Neil Brown's taking this seriously now. Rich has worked with Alley before and there's an affinity there that makes a lot of sense. And then you're looking at coaches who have I think good, albeit like sleepy reputations. Like Jack Bicknell was coach for a long time, been a head coach. The family name means a lot. He's been in the industry. He's worked for great programs. Larry Porter, one of the best recruiters and position coaches for a long time in his career. That's gotten some recognition, like veteran teacher coaches. But people who you and I might like, Chris, and then maybe the industry likes, again, a Nicewander, a Logan Bradley. I'm trying to think of other younger coaches here, Ryan Garrett, that have a future that's not quite here yet. So it's a lot of like, let's see who's still moving up or who's still on the staff in a couple of years. It's indefinite. Excuse me, incomplete to me right now. We both like Henry Weinreich because it was a really good interview. I have no idea what he can do on Saturdays, so I don't think it's like one of these nationally best coaching staffs in the country. I also think it's hard to do that now because again, 74 assistant coaches, everybody's going to have a collection of good ones, but it's also going to be dilute a little bit just because of the quantity of coaches. Like if you had 10 and you pick the top 10 coaches on the staff, however you rank them, it probably looks like a pretty good staff. But like that's largely true at a lot of places now. I get what the question is and I understand the enthusiasm, but I think a fair assessment is that it's it's ordinary and it's a lot of guys who have worked with Rodriguez before, who are familiar with him, but where have they been? Louisiana Monroe, Jacksonville State. If they were coming from major programs and had worked with him before, if they had been just from Michigan and Arizona without the lapse in between, and they were the coaches who had power conference experience, you'd feel a lot better about things right now. But just again, the assessment when he was hiring coaches is that was people he was familiar with, people who didn't have jobs and needed jobs, people who were looking to rebound or move up, which is fine. It may work out very well. And I think you could look at all these hires and say that makes sense. It's not some like top 10 coaching staff in the country though. Sorry, I can't get there yet, but prove me wrong. I'll come back and I'll say I was wrong.
Well, let me adjust this slightly for the last little part, or we'll kind of throw it together because, the question does say his staff, like the coaches around him, is how it's phrased.
Mhm.
Does your answer to the first two questions change if we include Rich Rodriguez? Because I think that's the spirit behind his question. I'm putting my thoughts into his brain here because he does say grade Rich Rodriguez's staff, like the guys he's hired, not necessarily Rich Rodriguez, but is adding Rich Rod an A to an F, renewing fan excitement? What is that like? B,
I mean,
B,
that's
B
that's
plus,
apparent.
A?
That's apparent in the last 4 weeks, five
Yeah.
weeks. Pretty much from Big 12 Media Day on, you've seen people really either get in the left lane or get on the road, come off the exit and join the traffic here. That's apparent. And again, you can't argue the season ticket number. Like that's a 15, 17% spike from last year, where again, that team was coming off 9 wins. It had a lot coming back and people just weren't jazzed about it. That was a really bad sign last year to only get 20, 28, 8, I think, or something like that, right around 29,000 to be up at maybe 34,000 this year with so much unknown on the roster. Never mind the coaching staff. Ultimately, you're watching players, you're not watching coaches. That's a Rodriguez thing for sure.
Yeah. And I think it's also helping with the second part of this, the drawing national attention that was also asked about. Like, you've seen it. Like, um, national interviews with different guys. Just made waves with his steak with ketchup interview with Ross Dellinger. So like I think it's helping draw national attention. Just coming back, maybe it's part of the story of just oh, Rich Rodriguez returns home. I don't know if the national attention is necessarily this is an A+10 win team now, but the story is there that I think nationally people like to talk about. What about
I do
securing
think they have good
donation?
coaches.
Oh, no,
I think they have good coaches and teachers, but Chris, where have you seen them as a top half, a top 10 Big 12 team?
right.
That would be coaching staff stuff because who knows the players, but if everybody is doing this, 20, 40, 50, 70 new player thing, you rely on your coaching staff to get them up there. And if West Virginia had taken this almost complete rebranding and had somehow become in the consensus a top eight, a top 10 Big 12 team, that's not necessarily because of the players. That's because the coaches who got the players, identified them, got them on a board, got them on campus, and got them in shape to win. And again, this is not a critique, it's just reality. You haven't seen that yet.
I'm gonna ask you this off the top of your head. I don't know it off the top of my head, so no pressure. And I'm gonna look it up and try to answer it in written form if we don't. But you talked about season tickets. Alexia21 asked, "What was the most season tickets ever sold for WV football?"
Ooh, I think it's 37.
37. Okay.
It might have been Stewart's first year. I have to
Okay.
double check. That's a good question. I saw that question and I forgot to look into it, but I
And
believe it's
I feel like I think you're right. I think it was in that zone because I think we've been asked this before, and I think that was an answer that you had researched or found, or maybe it said before. So, um, odds. This is from DB Smiley. Odds that the student ticketing change is a precursor to reducing the size of the student seating in the upper deck. So it's just step one.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it,
Which
like,
is smart. I get it. And Baker had a pretty clear case there. Tired of looking out for my seat in the media box or the AD suite and knowing it's sold out and hearing people in the parking lots complain about I paid $400 for this ticket, I paid $800 for this ticket, and meanwhile there's 3,500 seats that aren't filled. That's a bummer. So yeah, I think this is going to be one of those things where they say, you know what, here's photographic proof. They're going to be able to track all this data. We only averaged, instead of 12,500, we averaged 9,500. Well, guess what? We're going to free up 3,000 tickets to the fans next year. Now, can that be or fluid the other way, where if all of a sudden the student attendance is maxed out every year, do they give more students back? That's not going to happen, Chris. It doesn't happen that way. Toothpaste, genie, whatever, it doesn't go back in the tube. It doesn't go back in the bottle. I'd be really worried. And you would hope that the student body has some representation to say, hey, if you're going to take it back, you're going to have to give it back too. And that's a battle they're going to have to fight. Number one. Number two, I really hope that they give this experiment, this evaluation a couple of years because, Chris, who have they been right to be excited about as fans or students for the past 6 years?
right.
What
Yeah.
like what are they getting jazzed for? And even like last year they were the Penn State opener, right? It was an oh woe is us. I don't like playing these openers. Well, gosh, what if we win the game? If you're a student, you're thinking that, right? But you're kind of conditioned to not. So like I just think that they did not have a lot of reason to come out to get the games. It's still not easy to get the games. People forget that, and students sometimes be like, I'm pretty happy in my room, or I'm going to a bar where I'm not 21. Guess what? Don't matter, right? Don't matter from the parking lot either, right? And you're not 21, but it's a lot easier to go someplace with a bunch of your friends that don't have tickets than being like one of two people in your friend circle of friends who has tickets. It's just not easy to get the games too. So um, if they're going to do this evaluation, do it fair and full, and make sure that they have the seats, they have an easy way to get tickets, and they also have a way to get to and from games and a place to hang out during the games where maybe you can moderate their behavior, but you can also facilitate their attendance too.
Question for you. Am I reading these numbers right? So you said he said 12,000 ish to season tickets for students, correct?
I think it's 12.5 if I remember correctly. I wish I had these numbers in front of me. My bad.
But and I'm looking at the undergrad numbers for WVU, and it says 18,600. Is it no? So that's about two-thirds. They are expecting about two-thirds of the entire student body to be at every single football game.
Which seems easy to do, right? But like, you ever been to Morgantown on a Friday night?
Yeah, well,
At noon, the game comes
I think it's
early.
not easy to do. I mean,
Yeah, right.
two-thirds, like you're gonna find people, some of those people are just not interested in football first. Like, I mean, it sounds crazy to me and you and probably hopefully everyone listening to this podcast because you're here because you like football. But there's going to be people that don't like football. There's going to be people that are out of town. There's going to be people that are doing internships or whatever and not around. There are people that prefer to go hunting. I don't know. It seems like a very large number of seats set aside, a large percentage of the student body that they're expecting to be there, 2/3.
I just wonder if Rodriguez has a good program on the field. They're winning games. They're exciting. Let's just say they go 6-6, but they average 33 points a game or whatever, and the margin of defeat isn't too bad in their losses. If it's exciting and you're bringing guys like, yeah, then maybe don't shrink it by too much. Maybe give it 2 years. I don't know how long they're gonna do this evaluation and then enact things. Maybe that's a question that you ask people in charge. Note to self.
Yeah.
But just be fair about it. I wish there would be a way for them to get it back too, because if the fans don't do their part of it, I don't know. Can they do static seating and like open up some student tickets like 11 o'clock on a game day for like a 3:30 kick or something? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see.
All right. Only a couple more questions here. Again, if you don't hear your questions asked, we will answer them in 3-minute videos, written format, or in stories all to themselves for you few special people. Um, Ear Traveler asks, with Rich Rodriguez's fast-paced play execution, how much has in-helmet communication helped it go faster?
Oh, it's all hand signals. It sounds like.
Yeah.
I think the communication is going to be evaluation, analysis, advice, things like that. Hey, we ran this play in the first quarter. Don't forget this. Hey, we're in this. Watch out for this guy coming out of the flat. Watch the pump and go. Just I think it's going to be more of um, using that time to make sure your player knows what the coach wants him to know, and then between 30 and 40 people are going to be signaling in the play, and one of them is live, right? So just watch that person and communicate it. But, it'll be given that, like, if you're, let's just say Reed Carrick goes, you're starting Mike. Hey, make sure that the staring in is watching out for this here and don't jump in the gap on this. Or, hey, don't forget, tell the nickel that this on the fake or the motion guy is supposed to do this. There's little things like that. Offensively, um, same thing. Like Rich will be calling the plays, or Rhett Rodriguez will be, hey, last time we were in 3rd and 7, they dropped in this coverage. Be careful for this. Just, I think it's going to be reminders, tweaks, tips, compliments, things like that. It sounds like they're going to have hand signals to communicate, and that's probably the way. Little thing I heard last year was on defense, it was too much. Um, it was delayed getting the play in sometimes because it was a lot of conversation, and then all of a sudden 15 seconds is up, that thing is off, and you got to signal the plays. And guess what? You're not aligned. Things aren't good. So it's going to take some getting used to, I'm sure. But I think the less you communicate from the sideline as far as the plays, the better.
Next question. Face your fears. Since Rodriguez's last tenure, the FCS opponent in each of WV's first season with a new coach was Villanova in 2008. Me stepping to the side here. I think, if I remember correctly, that had already shown the signs of what was to come over the next couple of weeks, where the offense kind of wasn't as explosive despite having Pat White and Noel Devine there. Norfolk State in 2011, losing at halftime. Was that right? I mean, I remember it was
Yeah.
bad, but was it
That
losing
was
at
a
halftime?
miserable day too. Yeah, miserable day.
And then JMU in 2019, which I think we referenced earlier, 20-13, tied at 10 in the fourth quarter. Which of these games will a Robert Morris result most resemble?
I would think Robert Morris is probably the worst of those.
Yes,
Well,
agreed.
actually, Norfolk State was really bad, and that game got extremely one-sided in the second half too. I think, right? Didn't end up like a lot to a
50,
little.
55-12. That's why I was trying to remember what the
Yeah.
halftime score was. I'll look it up, but yeah.
I'm not sure it'll be 55-12, but there'll be a spread like that. Villanova was a pretty good program. Obviously, James Madison was a pretty good program. I don't think that Robert Morris is either one of those teams. And like, just like everybody else, they are replacing a lot of players just because you have the natural uh, attrition of an FCS team that loses players, this and that. You have some guys that are coming down from FBS programs, but like some of their highlight players are guys who haven't played very much at all in college. I'm not sure why that makes them a worthy and never mind superior opponent to West Virginia and all their experience. Not at WVU, but they've got a lot of players, especially in defense, that have played football before at this level.
Yeah, I was looking at 10-9, and then yeah, Norfolk State kicked a field goal as time expired at halftime to make it 12-10. West Virginia was leading 38-12 by the end of the third quarter. So there you go.
Mm.
Where was that question? I wanted to ask you one more. No, can't find it. Where? Who asked that? Oh
No,
well. I
I
guess
had the
that'll be.
question.
Yeah, go.
No, I had the questions. You know how the
Yeah, no, I was looking for the one about the first. I was going to ask you what was going to be. Somebody asked what the first. Oh, there we go. I still love you, Doug. What will WV's first offensive play date be? So what we'll go out on. Make your pick, Mike. First offensive play. This is nothing. I don't know if you're like an expert on this because you're a big Cleveland Guardians fan and they're big on tipping what they're going to do at the start of an inning. Spiking a
Hmm.
pitch into the dirt like your favorite reliever. Um,
Wow.
wow. You're welcome. I got
Uh,
a
let's go bubble screen.
bubble screen right off the bat. Okay. I'll go read option, and whoever the quarterback is 1000% going to keep it for the first play of the game and try to get a big play.
People want to know this. I guess there's a bet probably for that too. Pass run, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just like bubble screen because people would they would sit up in their chairs. I'm pretty sure if they ran a bubble. I root for the story. That's all.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, that's it for the this portion of the mailbag. Again, we'll answer the rest of them in a written format. We'll have a couple for 3-minute videos later in the week on Wednesday and Friday.
Sounds good. Until then, I am Mike Casazza.
And I'm Chris Anderson.
We'll talk to you then.